Hello and welcome everyone back to the channel. I'm Carlos, and in this video we're going to take a look at how I timed out this animation using Callipeg on the iPad and their new transformation layers. So if you're new around here, consider subscribing, because on this channel what we do is we take a look at hardware, software, and even drawing and animation techniques, and we're putting them all together so we can live our life and tell our stories. So let's go ahead and take a look at the transformation layers in Callipeg, but first, and welcome back. So when I was planning this animation, I put my hands up there and then I moved my head and I acted out what I wanted to see in this animation. And so I decided that it was going to be however long, however many seconds it was. And if we take a look here, this animation ends up being about 127 frames at 24 frames a second. Since the hands aren't moving much or at all, what I did was I gave the hands its own layer. This is the hands layer, and I'm gonna go over to the hamburger menu on the left-hand side. And sure, you can take this 100% and drag to the left, and you can make it slowly go away. But a faster way to do that is tap on that hamburger menu and then go up to this show only this layer button. So everything is happening and the hands are the anchor. And I'm gonna hit this little pencil here, and that's gonna create a new drawing layer. Okay, and I'm just gonna draw a circle. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to use this as a guide for timing out the animation. So you see these numbers in the timeline, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up at the top. Those are frame numbers. And these white boxes here that we're drawing on, those are considered sheets. So imagine a sheet of paper can last however many frames we need it to. The transformation layer needs more than just one frame to do the manipulations. So what I'm going to do is double tap right on that sheet, and you see how it turns green? Notice those arrows. Now I can actually take the right arrow and drag it to the right, and that is making that sheet longer and lasting for, currently it's at 24 frames. What I'm gonna do is stretch this out to the entire 127 or so frames. If we were doing frame by frame animation, I probably wouldn't stretch out that sheet. What I would do is I would draw a circle, and again, we're doing frame by frame. Draw a circle, I would come to the next frame, make sure onion skinning is on, and this middle button here that you see me tapping, that's the onion skinning. So I'm going to turn that on, and then I'd be able to come in here and actually draw the movement of the head that I want to see. Go ahead and turn off onion skin, and you see that could work, but I think the transformation layer is a little bit faster. So I'm going to go ahead and tap that hamburger menu, swing up to the trash can, and delete that layer. Just for kicks, let's go ahead and leave those hands up there so we know we're not going to go too far. The hands not only serve as an anchor, but they actually serve as guides on how far we want to move the head. Now that we have our circle layer, I'm going to go to the top of the timeline, and you see this diamond right there. I'm going to tap that, and notice what happened. The transformation layer was created, and then it took our circle drawing layer and it created a parenting. And we know that it's parented because of this little line on the left that goes down and then to the right. And that's important to know, because anything that we do on the transformation layer is going to affect the transformation layer's children. Another thing that we want to keep in mind is, while the transformation layer is active, and we know that it's active because the eyeball is turned on, if we go down to the drawing layer and I grab my brush tool, I can't draw, and that's because the transformation layer is active. If I tap that eyeball on the transformation layer, now making sure that I'm on that drawing layer, now I can actually draw. And now when I turn the transformation layer back on, I will not be able to draw anymore. And that's important to know. So if you're messing with the transformation layer and you're trying to add some artwork for some reason and it's not working, just make sure that that eyeball is set to whatever setting you need it to be. Okay, so now if we go to the transformation layer, you see all of these guides here. So this is the bounding box for our circle, or eventually our head, right? So now I could actually grab any one of these handles and do some squash and stretch. And I want you to notice where the pivot point is and how the location of the pivot point affects our resizing. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab that pivot point and just move it over to where I feel comfortable. Usually when I'm dealing with drawing heads and manipulating head movement, what I do is I try to imagine where my pivot point is on my body. And it's usually right here where the skull meets my neck. And I'll put the pivot point here, so then when I go to rotate this circle, it moves more like a head instead of like even right in the middle. If I have it right in the middle and I'm squashing and stretching, is in the middle, or if I'm rotating, it's in the middle, not necessarily on the neck. And where the connection is on our neck, we have more skull at the top. So the top of our head moves way more than where our head connects to our neck. Does that make sense? I hope so. I'm going to move that pivot point there. And now when I go to scale, everything seems to be operating a little bit better, a little bit smoother, a little bit more the way that it should be. So even if I grab this circle up here, the rotation circle, now it's rotating properly, kind of like, again, a skull on a neck. And with the transformation layer selected, I'm going to go ahead and tap this diamond with a little squiggly line with another diamond. Let's go ahead and tap that. That brings us into the motion editor, or the curve editor, if you will. Now let's take a look at what we can affect. Over here we have position X, position Y, scale X, scale Y, and rotation. All of the values that we're manipulating start from the middle of the screen. So for example, if I come over here to where it says position X, if I wanted to affect the X position and I clicked and I dragged to the right, it moves that circle to the right. 2 fingers to undo, 2-finger tap. And then if I took that and dragged it to the left, you see how it drags to the left. I could also double tap on that number, and now I'm able to come in here and say maybe 100 and click OK. And you see how it moved it over to the 100 position. And again, same thing with Y. Scale X will scale our artwork horizontally. So if I click and drag this, and very similarly scale Y. And then the rotation, if we click and drag, that's going to rotate however many degrees. And then this 0x, that's how many rotations we want to have happen. So if we click and drag that, it's going to rotate 5 times at 185 degrees, but we need another keyframe further on down the line. To create keyframes, what I'm going to do is, let's say I'm going to affect the position X. I'm going to go ahead and tap that circle right next to position X. And if you notice down here, we have a new keyframe. And we know that there's a keyframe on that layer because if you notice right by position X, there's the circle turned into a diamond. So if we wanted to affect the Y position, I'm going to go ahead and tap that too. So now that we have our starting position, what I'm going to do is move over to the right. And now I can change the position a couple different ways. If I wanted to, I can create another keyframe and then adjust the number, or what I can do is double tap that number, change that to 250, click OK, and you see how the keyframe is automatically created. And if we drag, we can see our animation. So it's going to take us, let's go ahead and tap on this, it's going to take us 27 frames to go from our start position to our end position, current end position. Let's go back to the curve editor. If I made a mistake, I could actually tap that keyframe and tap that trash can, and now it deletes that keyframe. Another way we can create a keyframe is if I move over to another position, I can then take that art layer and drag down and then move my playhead over and then move the artwork again. And we see here are a bunch of the keyframes, but let's say I don't like any of that. What I'm going to do is double tap drag, and this is a tricky one, and I know that a lot of us have been struggling with this, but the double tap drag thing is actually very much improved. What you're going to do is double tap, and on the second tap, keep your pencil down and then drag. Don't double tap, pick up, and then try to drag. It's not going to work. 2 taps, the second one stay down, and then drag. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. I'm going to double tap drag and select all of the keyframes except my first one. I'm going to hit the trash can, and now we're back to our original position. So now I'm going to tap on the diamond squiggly line diamond button again. Now I want to see where my hands are. And so what I'm going to do is, and I'm going to cheat a little bit because I already have this timed. So I'm going to move my playhead over to this position here, and I'm going to move the head down, and we notice that we have a new X and Y position keyframe. Okay, and now that we're here, I'm going to double tap and drag up, and we can take a look at this little pop-up menu. So this first button is obviously a trash can. If we wanted to delete those keyframes, we just click on that and they disappear. This next one to the right is copy, so we can actually copy those keyframes. The next button is paste. I can come over here and tap on one of these keyframes, hit copy, come over here, and then hit paste, and you see how it moved it over. Let's take a look at these lines that are to the right of the paste button. Those lines are basically ease in, ease out. This first line, there's no easing in, no easing out. It's just going to be a straight linear animation. So if you have artwork here and you want to move it here, it's going to move it at a consistent interval. These other ones are a little bit more like ease in, ease out. So this first S looking one, it's a very subtle ease in, ease out. The next one is a little bit stronger, and the third one obviously is even stronger than that. What'll happen is your artwork will slowly start moving, and then it picks up steam, and then towards the end it will slow back down. What we could do is click on the curve editor again, and you see these handles here. I could come in here and pull those handles and affect the position of our artwork. And now if we hit play, we can see how that easing is affecting our artwork. I don't really want all of that, so I'm just going to double tap and drag and delete. If we're on a regular drawing layer, if we look to the left of the stage, we see this 33 pixels. That is actually how big our brush is. So if I drag that up to 66, you see how much bigger that is. This 100% is the opacity of our brush. If I bring that down all the way down to 17, you see the difference, and now all the way up to 100, and it's a lot darker. So let's undo those. Under the 100, we have the undo. Under that, we have redo, and then these two buttons under those. The first one is previous frame. So if I tap that, it's going to move my playhead to the left, and the bottommost button is next frame. So every time I click that, it's going to take the playhead forward 1 frame. And that would be helpful, like if we're going frame by frame animating, I can just real quick draw a shape, tap that button, go to the next frame, tap that button again, and just keep drawing and adding frames and really just going for it. But now if we're on the transformation layer, we notice that those buttons change. So while I'm on the transformation layer, I'm going to go ahead and turn that eyeball back on so we get our manipulation guides. If I use my fingers, it's going to manipulate the artwork, all of the artwork that is a child of that transformation layer. what if I wanted to move the stage to get a more comfortable angle while I'm drawing? Well, that's what this first button is. If I tap it, it turns yellow, and now I'm able to zoom in, zoom out, and rotate the canvas. If I tap it again, we're back to manipulating the artwork that is a child of that transformation layer. And to show you guys how easy it is to apply those transformations to different layers, I'm going to go ahead and grab these hands and I'm going to drag it up and I'm going to place it into position. So now if we tap that transformation layer, we see that this transformation layer has two children, and we know that because at the top left of that transformation layer, above its name, we have a diamond. That diamond is letting us know that this is a transformation layer, and that little 2 is telling us that it has two children. So now, if I go to manipulate that artwork, now we see that it's manipulating both the head and the hands. If we didn't want our hands to be manipulated by that transformation layer, we just have to move it out from being parented by that transformation layer. And again, if we go to the transformation layer, we see that only the head is going to be affected. I turned on the head layer to kind of help us get through this timing part, just because since I've already figured it out, I'm going to cheat a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and move my playhead over to frame 10, and we see that that is where the head starts to move. So double tap that green line to create keyframes. Now I'm going to move the playhead over to the next frame, and now I know that I can rotate this and move it up a little bit. To the next frame, rotate it a little more, move it up a little bit. Next frame. And if you remember the 12 principles of animation, the anticipation, that's what we did here, right? So instead of just going from here down and up, making it look somewhat robotic, what I want to do is add anticipation to the animation by really getting this character to wind up and then come down. And that's what they mean when they say adding anticipation to your animation. Let's go ahead and tap next frame. And we're going to move that down. Next frame, move that over, maybe rotate it a little bit. Next frame. Okay, so let's hide that head sketch layer. And now we see that our head rough is going to come down and pick back up. These three buttons that are on the right side of the transformation buttons, that top one flips horizontally, the middle button flips vertically, and that circle with the arrowhead on it, that basically resets all of the transformations. So whatever it was that before you started manipulating that artwork, that button will turn that artwork back to the original position and scale and everything. Okay, I'm going to take a minute to go ahead and finish animating this circle so we know where our head position is going to be. I'm going to go ahead and do a time lapse, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Let's go ahead and hit play and see what we have. That looks pretty good. Okay, so now that I feel pretty comfortable with the animation of the circle, what I'm going to do is collapse these layers. The transformation layer and the art layer should be collapsed, because if you use too many transformation layers, it's probably going to tax your iPad. So what you want to do is, once it's done and you're feeling pretty good about it, go ahead and go to the transformation layer. Tap that hamburger menu again. All the way on the right, we have visible. To the left of that is the eyeball with the 1 on it is going to turn off the visibility for all of the other layers. And then the next one is flatten. I'm going to tap that flatten button, and you see it's going through a process, and basically what it's doing is it's taking all of the math that we did with the X and the Y, the scale, the rotation, all of that stuff. It's taking all of that information and flattening it. So now if we zoom in, we see that unnamed. We can come in here and name that. Okay. Now I can delete Okay, so now that all of those transformations have been set and now we have our artwork on an art layer, what I'm going to do is drag the opacity down to about 47–50%, and I'm going to lock this layer. Now I can come up here and hit that pencil button at the top left of the timeline, and now I can come in here and really start finalizing my character. And we know that this first sheet lasts for about 9 frames, and then we can come here and again, we know that this part is already done. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that layer. I'm going to go ahead and hide our rough head animation layer, and let's go ahead and turn on our head sketch layer. We're going to hit play just to make sure that it's what we want it to be. Yep, that's it. And now all I would have to do is create a new drawing layer, and now all I have to do is fill in the blanks. And the blanks are where the body would be. So I can then come in here and say, okay, cool. So, and that's how I want that body to look on that frame. So I'm gonna go ahead and stretch that sheet out and come to the next frame. And I'm gonna go ahead and turn on the onion skinning. So then that way I know that he's gonna start pulling his head up this way. So what I'm going to do is, instead of having his body leaning in that direction, I'm going to start straightening it out, because at the end of it, he's going to end up being in a completely different position. So then maybe we start to move him in this direction, because his body is going to be moving, and we're going to have his body drag his head down and around. And so we need that body to be kind of, and we could, if we wanted to, we can get really expressive with the position. And right now I'm doing it in stick figure, but if I really wanted to, if I felt super comfortable, what I could do is 2-finger tap and hold, and this brush here, I can tap that and it would erase it. So I could actually come in here and actually like give him a neck and say, all right, cool. He's okay. And we can maybe even just have more finalized art. And again, since we have this already done, I'm going to go ahead and delete that layer, and I'm going to turn on my body layer, and the body fills in. Then once I got this pencil test done, what I did was I rendered it out in a PNG sequence, and I sent it over to my computer. I imported those into Adobe Animate, and then I finalized everything. I did the inking and the coloring in Adobe Animate, and it came out really good. But this is the part where you guys have to wait for my film to come out. I'm starting to film everything now, and I'm starting to animate everything. There's going to be some visual effects in there, a lot like some of the stuff that you guys saw that I did with the Anamorphia film. And one of the things about this film that I'm really excited about is the music. I got some really good music for this film. I can't wait to be able to finish this up and show it to you guys. So if you guys don't mind, please hit that subscribe button, and if you notice that little bell right next to the subscribe button, if you click that, whenever I come out with something new, you guys will be alerted. If you like this video, if you learned anything from this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you know anyone that's trying to get into 2D animation, filmmaking, graphic design, all that stuff, send this video on over to them. And again, if you haven't, go ahead and click that subscribe button, because it helps us quite a bit. And with that, I hope this video finds you healthy, and I hope this video finds you safe. That's it for me. Can't wait to show you guys this film. I'm really excited. But as far as this video, this is it. This is the end. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.
Coconut Justice.